Okay, welcome to Into the Channel, a podcast primarily about women's football. Before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, come kick it with us. Subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen at ITC_pod on X. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Angle. What is up, man?
Hello, friends. It's April. It's spring. There are good sports happening. Obviously, football is at the top of the list. There's nothing to complain about over here.
Nothing to complain about whatsoever. And a quick bit of housekeeping. Give me a second here. Okay, in Champions League action. Okay, men's Champions League action. Let me make sure I get that. Arsenal 2, Bayern Munich 2. Real Madrid, again, this is the men's. Real Madrid 3, Manchester City 3. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Some important football was played somewhere, I guess. All right, now with that out of the way, let's get to the real football. Mr. Grant Angle, I know you already know. I think we already know. But I'll ask you anyway, where do you want to get started?
Well, buddy, there's really only one place to get started. There we go. Sounds delicious. Smells delicious.
We're going to play two up front today.
Look at you. Cheers to you. That's fantastic. We're going to start with the opening match of the SheBelieves Cup, the biggest sporting event in the state of Georgia in the month of April, a tradition unlike any other, where the USA took on Japan in front of 50,644 fans at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Not too shabby. So I'll zip through this. I mean, this is obviously old news. It happened on Saturday. We're recording this on Wednesday. Japan scored the opener about 30 seconds into the match. But let me just pose this question, understanding that we are operating with the benefit of hindsight now, but how were you feeling after that opening goal went in?
I was into it, actually, because
Nice.
my legit biggest concern was actually the U.S. potentially blowing through this tournament. You know, again, potentially against less than full rosters, maybe overinflating the ego, not what you want for young players. Think about Jaden Shaw, Lily Johannes, Corbin Albert. We'll get into it, but I liked that this U.S. side gained some new experience dealing with adversity.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. We kind of got caught in transition. It's not fluky because Japan is a great team with great players, but kind of the way, the ball kind of like ping pongs back and then immediately goes forward. And like we just kind of got caught on the bad foot. It wasn't any kind of like terrible defending or any kind of howler or any real huge like tactical mistake. It's just a goal that is going to happen sometimes. And the fact that it happened 30 seconds into the match, I could see why people may have been somewhat alarmed by that. But I'm with you, man. I thought USA responded really well. I thought they recognized that, okay, we still have 89 and a half minutes to go. So that's plenty of time to get a goal or two. And I think that if that happened in a match immediately following the World Cup, then I think I probably would have been a little more concerned. But the way they played in the CONCACAF W Gold Cup, I'm with you. I was like, okay, they're going to have to kind of charge back from this. And they did. I thought Japan had a really difficult time handling the high press. Japan had to commit 16 fouls to USA's 7. Oof. And Japan really was just kind of left out there chasing the game. And for anybody who watched the last World Cup or really knows anything about Japan's history as a footballing country, especially on the women's side, they don't chase the game very often. They typically dominate the ball or at least keep possession even. And I thought they just looked, frankly, a little physically overwhelmed against the States.
They were just getting closed down so quickly.
Exactly.
I do have one quibble. I think that goal was a result of tactical decision-making. Obviously, Niswanger playing way, way high up.
Sure.
And I think even in the match against Canada, we saw the same from Crystal Dunn from that same spot. So that's essentially the way that we're deciding to play in these matches. So it's almost like that goal was going to happen eventually. It's kind of like the Vanessa Gio back pass in the Gold Cup where it's like, all right, well, the ball only rolls a third of a mile an hour under these wet conditions. So somebody was going to pay for that. And I think Japan was going to be able to exploit that at some point, which they did. But yeah, a lot to get excited about outside of that. Another cap, another goal for Jaden Shaw, Sophia Smith. I think that Japan performance probably did wonders for her confidence, and she cashed in major on that new confidence. All in all, I think very encouraging if we're just looking at that USA-Japan outcome.
We use the term often. We do it in honor of the great Eric Spoelstra from your Miami Heat. It was a professional win. And it was a professional win over a really great Japanese side. I mean, that's the kind of home win you take something from moving forward. And Japan, they're going to be in it. at the Olympics, and they're going to be tough to beat at the Olympics.
Yeah, you mentioned what would going down a goal felt like after the World Cup. I wonder what it would have felt like in the World Cup against this Japan side. Probably would have felt much different. Again, this Japan side was a team that mowed down Spain 4-0.
For sure. I believe, and folks can fact check me if I'm wrong in the comments. I think they're the only team that beat Spain in the World Cup. I think that was their only loss in the group stage, and obviously they won out the rest of the way. So Japan,
Oh yeah,
one of the best teams to watch always, and a tough loss in their second match against Brazil. Japan really could have won it. Fujino had a chance to score to put them up 2-0 in the first half. Japan could have won that match 3-1. Ended up losing it in penalties. But yeah, they're great and they'll be back. But moving ahead, USA versus Canada in the final. I think a few weeks ago in the CONCACAF W Gold Cup, I talked about USA's lopsided winning record versus Canada all time. I gotta say, man, I hate to kind of oscillate wildly on these takes, but Canada is really tough. I mean, I think I kind of jokingly said, like, what kind of rivalry is this? Like, look at the records. But man, Canada, I said it last time, I'll say it again. It continues to be true. Nothing has changed. They got a lot of good players over there on that team, and they played USA way tough in this one.
Yeah, I thought they looked better than they did in that Gold Cup.
Mm-hmm.
So I think even some improvement off of that. Thinking about the U.S., though, I got to say, I kind of like that they fell behind again in this one. Before we get into the match, though, very curious about this. Anything catch your attention regarding the lineups or formation? From my standpoint, obviously no Niswanger, Rodman not in the starting lineup. Horan kind of playing a little further away from goal, which I liked. I thought she was effective there. She kind of was playing some bully ball in the center of the park. And when she wasn't playing bully ball, she was drawing fouls. So
Yep.
It was all good there. And I think she obviously, had a big hand in that second Sophia Smith goal. But what was your take on the formation, the lineups? I think the announcing team mentioned this was the first time just that front three had played together.
Yeah.
Did you see it as kind of tinkering, or was this like tactical decision making from Twyla Kilgore?
I love it. I gotta think it's some of both. Obviously, I'll use that cop out answer. I think you hit the nail on the head. The Horan Shaw movement. I believe Julie Foudy called this out on the broadcast, where they're basically switching up and down the field from like Horan being the 10 to Shaw being the 10, and then Horan dropping back, like you said, maybe playing a little farther away from the goal. I thought that was awesome. That's a great look. That's got to be somewhat of a horrifying look too if you're a defender trying to make sure who you're checking. You see Shaw running upfield at you fast when you might not be expecting it at times. That can't feel great as a defender. I love the whole lineup. The back four, if I could back up real quick, the Gurma injury in the first match against Japan, what a sinking, terrible feeling that is. I can't imagine what it's like for her as an athlete and for her teammates. But I know as somebody who cares about the results of the U.S. women's national team, seeing Naomi Gurma go down, you don't want to see any player go down with an injury. But seeing her go down, especially living in the world of the ACL epidemic, that was horrifying. But after that digression, I'll to your point, the back four they played against Canada, from left to right, you have Dunn, Davidson, Dahlkemper, and Fox.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of intelligence, a lot of tenacity, a lot of speed. And then in those kind of holding defensive midfielders, you have Sam Coffey, who we're going to talk about more, who we love talking about on the show. I got to think she has quickly ascended to ITC favorite status.
Let's go.
You have Sam Coffey and Emily Sonnet back there as kind of your pivot holding defensive midfielders. You just got to love that, man. That like starting with the defense, kind of letting the defense set that tone. You can play from the back comfortably, but then you also know you're making it difficult for the other attackers.
Coffee and Sonnet, couple of dogs back there.
For sure.
I thought Crystal Dunn was playing, we see this too from Niswanger, playing kind of way up the field. And I think they're trusting what essentially for a lot of the match becomes the back three.
Yep.
Now that gets strengthened when you have Gurma in there. I thought Davidson, she hasn't quite hit the level that she did in the Gold Cup. She was a little sharper in the Gold Cup.
Sure.
Fox, I think she's just a lock. She's just
Always.
like so rock solid. Dahlkemper, I thought she was really good too. Definitely held it down. Yeah, I loved the back four. And then between the posts, when you got to listen there, I mean,
let's go.
I want to fast forward real quick to the penalty kicks.
Sure.
Just the fact when she gets a save and then she stomps her feet, walk into the spot. It's like, no bullshit. I'm just going to go and smash it in and just stomp my way back. It's such an emotional pull and it just must deflate the other team just to see
Mhm.
her controlling essentially a sequence of 3 kicks, one that she defends, one that she takes, and then one that she defends. We're just like, okay, it's Alyssa Nair time.
Yep.
It's been awesome to see her just put her imprint all over these PKs, because it's not the second time we've had to do this with Canada. I don't know. She's just such an emotional powerhouse. Like, I don't know. There's no other way to explain it.
100%. I mean, she's just a complete brick wall. I can't remember who I saw say it on Twitter, so apologies if they're a viewer of the program. Is she the best penalty taker on the squad?
I don't have it off the top, but she's a no doubter.
100%.
Of the people that go up and you walk up and you a big deep breath, a big exhale. She ain't doing none of that. She's stomping and she's just like right up to the ball, just smack it. The energy of it, the optics of it, I don't know. They're just kind of earth shaking. So maybe if she's not the best, she's the most impactful.
I like that. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, no stutter step from Alyssa Nair. None of the big step. No herky jerky bullshit. She just runs up and blasts it. I would say I think she's in the running. Lindsey Horan feels automatic when she's up there. So I would say I think Horan might be the best penalty taker, but Nair's in the conversation. And you're totally right. Like save, score, save. At some point, the other team just has to be looking at each other like, I mean, okay, what do we do with this now? Like, this is crazy. Now, who's the next person to go up and kick? And she's just going to glare at you. She's going to dive right and you're going to kick it right at her. Because that seems to be her MO at this point.
Definitely a magnet. I thought it was a great showing from the U.S. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. I thought Canada played really, really well.
Yeah.
Like Adriana Leon, she was great. And I kind of felt like Japan lost control of the match pretty early. Yeah. Canada was able to hang in much longer. And I think just the physicality from them was really impressive. Just our inability to bully them or run past them. Like those 50-50 balls were true 50-50. And I always get interested when you see players like Lindsey Horan sort of take fouls, draw fouls in the midfield, because that's kind of like the optimal play in that moment. It's like, I'm not going to beat this person just because I'm better than them. I need to draw a foul here. And that's how we kind of keep possession, keep control of the match. I thought that really reflected really well on Canada.
Yeah, they have a great composure about them. I'll point out, so I think it's eight or nine players who appeared for Canada in the SheBelieves Cup this year played on that gold medal winning squad in the 2020 Olympic Games, the 2020 Olympics that were played in 2021 because of some world event that happened. I can't quite recall what it was. But I mean, just off the top, I mean, Janine Becky, Kadisha Buchanan, Gabby Carl, who barely played in 2020 because she was very young, but still she was on the squad. Jessie Fleming, Vanessa Gilles, Julia Grosso, Jordan Heitema, Ashley Lawrence, Adriana Leon, Deanne Rose, and Evelyn Viens. Viens was another player who was very young, didn't play that much. But like these were players who stood on the podium and got a gold medal. That's a lot of good players, a lot of players who remain in their prime. And Quinn didn't even appear. They're out with a concussion. So Quinn's going to come back for the next Olympic run.
Yep.
I mean, I'll just say it again. I know I'm stating the obvious. That team is really fucking good. And Simi Awujo out of the University of Southern California, that's a player now. She's only 20. I am very interested. I mean, you check the FootMob app, you check Football Reference. I was like, she doesn't play for a club? Like, this doesn't even make any sense. I was Googling around and I was like, oh, she plays at USC. Okay, then. I would imagine we'll have to hit up our guy Chris from Soccer Dossier, as all of you should if you have interest in the NWSL draft. We have to see when she's going to go in the draft because I think she's a good player.
Yeah, 100%. I think they also had Jade Rose is her name?
Yeah, Jade Rose in the defense. Yep.
Yeah, so she got a few mentions also. I mean, she was super tough. Like, I think
hell yeah.
Some of these defenders, it kind of reminds me of the conversation that we were having last week about defending Atemo Chawinga and then going out and being like, who can we get to do that? You look at like a player like Jade Rose or on Brazil, Tarciane, who's just the same kind of like, I mean, what do you... like tough to kind of like get what you want against a defender like that. Yeah, I thought it was a really great showing from Canada after they totally kind of limped out of the 2023 World Cup.
Yeah.
So I think they're definitely on the upswing considering what they did in the Gold Cup. And again, in this SheBelieves Cup. Okay. Fresh off that SheBelieves Cup victory for the USWNT, now we've got the Olympics looming this summer, taking place in Paris. It'll be here before we know it. We are going to embark on a 16-player draft, and we're going to work together in true ITC fashion to build the ultimate Olympics USWNT roster. We're not going to quite go snake draft. We're just going to alternate picks. Going to have to make some tough cuts. I'm excited to see who you've got. And then when it's all said and done, we will walk away with the official ITC Olympic roster, as mentioned. So, first pick, I'm going with who I believe is the best player on this U.S. Women's National Team, and that is defender Naomi Girma, 23 years old, played in the World Cup, was probably our best player in the World Cup as well. Kind of super vital, like when we think about who we might have to face in those Olympics. So I think she's a lock to pretty much play every minute that she's available. So that's my first pick. She's off the board, Naomi Girma.
Okay, good. I got my big board over here. Got people crossed off. I had her ranked number 2, so that makes sense. I think you'll probably guess who I have ranked number 1. I think I'd probably agree for you pound for pound. Maybe Girma is the best player. Let me just get it over with. I'm taking Lindsay Horan, obviously. You mark her in Sharpie. She has to be on the roster. She has to be your starting center mid, no doubt.
I like it. Yeah, I actually didn't have her second. So I'm glad we're going to have some little bit of dissension here. We'll see. Who I had 2 on my big board, just because I feel like she's played herself into absolute lock status. She's young, but she's a killer. Yep. I think we've seen that pretty much every match that she's made an appearance in, and that's Jaden Shaw. She's got to be on the roster. Just no way around it.
Totally agree. She was number 3 on my list, so we're not far off.
I like it.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it in the SheBelieves Cup recap. You could hear, and again, Julie Foudy pointed it out, you could hear Twyla Kilgore basically yelling for one of them to get upfield and one of them to drop back, and like kind of doing the yo-yo action between the both of them. That look of them almost like rotating between being a number 10 and a number 8 and kind of taking turns depending on what the look is. I love that. I love that kind of stuff. You see Pep Guardiola do that kind of stuff on the men's side. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you want. I think that's a European style of football that has not typically been played in the States or in the U.S. national team many times before. And please, anybody with more historical knowledge, let me know if I got that wrong on old USWNTs. But Shaw, Horan, in pen, easy peasy.
Love it. Yeah, some people say Rodri is the Lindsay Horan of the men's game.
Nice. So, okay, we got 2 midfielders. I mean, Shaw's like an attacking midfielder. You could play her on the wing if you want. But I'm going to call Shaw an attacking midfielder, Horan a midfielder, Girma a defender. Let me get a true forward, a true wing, one Trinity Rain Rodman. Gotta play. No doubt about it.
I like it. She obviously gets the assist against Canada and looked just super dangerous. I think, you kind of forget that she's still so young, 21 years old.
Yep.
According to the USA Soccer website, I think she's either at 35 or 36 caps in her career.
Awesome.
At 21 years old is just kind of mind-bending.
Yep.
She's definitely a lock on my roster. And I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. Another forward, just because I think she's been super dynamic as well, super productive, creating chances for herself and others, and also playing out of her mind. And we can only project that she's going to be even in better form as we get to July, and that's Mallory Swanson.
So I'm talking about, buddy, we are fucking locked in. She is right after Rodman on my list. My 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Top 5 on the big board, off the board. Mm-hmm. We're putting together a hell of a roster here.
I love it. All right.
Can we take a moment here to think about the makeup of our roster? Is now an acceptable time for us to kind of do that?
Yeah, let's see where we are.
Okay, so let's talk about the formation first, because we got to put together a starting lineup here. Are you a 4-3-3 kind of guy? Are you a 4-4-2 kind of guy? Are you a 4-2-3-1 kind of guy? What are we thinking?
I kind of like the 4-2-3-1 just because we talked about those two. You know, like you throw, I don't want to spoil it, but if you go back and listen to our She Believes segment, you'll know which two we're talking about. But put me down as a 4-2-3-1. But ultimately, you're going to have the 10th pick, which means you're ultimately going to decide with that 10th pick who gets that starting spot. So I'm glad we're kind of like zooming out a little bit, figuring out who we've got, figuring out what spots we've got covered.
Okay. I love that. You teed me up fucking perfectly. Tee it up because it's Masters Week, buddy. In the defensive midfield, give us Sam Coffey.
Let's go.
She's playing fucking great, buddy.
She is a beast. She is so tough. It kind of reminds me, one of the best nicknames that I've seen on Basketball Reference for an NBA player, Herb Jones. One of his nicknames is Not on Herb. I think we can bless Sam Coffey with Not on Sam. just kind of
Damn
when
right.
she's in the zone, playing out of her mind. I think she's an absolute must on the roster as well. That
Yep.
leads me to thinking a little bit defensively here. I think this player also is just crushing it, and obviously she's getting those reps in North London at
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal. Give me Emily Fox as my right back. She also has just, crushed her penalty kick, and I just love the way she's playing. It's just like no worries when
Yes.
the action's on her side. Basically, playing a Darrell Rivas ball out there on her side of the field. Give me Emily Fox.
Easy money. That's what I'm talking about. I took a drink there. Dino selects an Arsenal player. Who could have seen that coming? But no bias detected because you're 100% right. She's the player you want out there at right back. Can help you on offense as well as just a lockdown defender. I don't know if you're. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this. As a roster building partner, I hope you're not annoyed with me for this. I'm going to take a third forward because I think it's her time. I'm going to select Kat Macario because
Oh,
I think she is ready to fucking go. And by the time the Olympics roll around, I think she's going to be in top form.
wow. Well, I think that's our head of the snake there, Kat Macario. So
Mm-hmm.
we've got our one in our 4-2-3-1. So I'm happy with the way the formation's shaken out. So I'll just kind of pencil her in here. I like it. I had her a little lower,
Sure.
but three of the attacking players that we've already locked in: Trinity Rodman, Kat Macario, Mallory Swanson. What on earth do you do?
Good luck.
Just chase those three around, and we've still
Sure.
got one more spot to cover. And that's not even to mention Lindsey Horan, Jaden Shaw, who are absolutely going to be creeping up into that mix. I got to say, man, we're building a hell of a roster here. Two more picks before we kind of flesh out the last of our starters. I'm going to stay on the defensive side as well. Give me Jenna Neiswanger.
My
I
man.
think she's been pretty dynamic. I like the way that the U.S. has been using her up the field, playing back. I heard some chatter about kind of questioning, maybe her positioning on the Japan goal. I thought that was so silly. Like, this is clearly how we've set up our players. It's not her, it's not her fault
Sure.
that she's supposed to be up the field trying to win balls right around the halfway line. So I don't know. I think she's been rock solid, and she's exciting. She's unpredictable, great ball skills. She scored in the Gold Cup, and she can just cover so much ground on the field. I'm kind of happy to have her on our side here.
Love it. So I think it was a couple episodes on their podcast, the women's game, the legend, USWNT legend Sam Mewis talking about the importance of when you have a small roster. Oh wait, pardon me. Manchester City Football Club legend, the Sam Mewis. Don't ever
Mm-hmm.
get that twisted. But she mentioned the importance of flexibility and versatility. So I think here there are two players that we could take. I think I'm going to give the edge to one Crystal Dunn.
I like it.
You could play her anywhere in the back line, but if you have a defensive midfield of Dunn and Coffee, have fun with that, opposing attackers. I would also say in a pinch, you could play Dunn at forward if somebody gets hurt. She could play, you could literally put her almost anywhere on the field, and I think you're in good shape. No spoilies. You could probably guess the other player I had in mind there, but I'm going to take Dunn.
So we've got our first 10 with the 11th pick in the ITC USWNT Olympic roster fantasy team draft. I am taking Sophia Smith.
Got to.
I think her World Cup left a lot to be desired. I think even in the Gold Cup, she kind of struggled finding her footing. I think the key to her success has been giving herself a little bit of room to run.
Yeah.
Not trying to take on more than she can handle. Just like, oh, I've got a one-on-one here, or I think I can split these two. And I think that's really, really, really helped her game. We've seen
Yeah.
her do it in the NWSL, and now it's starting to kind of click within this USWNT sort of framework.
Yeah, full cosign. I think I may have earlier hit you with the fake out when I took Kat Macario over Sophie Smith. I knew Sophie Smith is in the squad. Never an ounce of disrespect to her. With Macario coming off her injury, working her way back in, those two are going to spell each other anyway. And with Sophie Smith, she can spell Rodman when you need her to. She can spell Mal Swanson when you need her to. Versatile, great player with experience. You already know what time it is with her. So, yeah, she's a no-doubter.
Awesome. Who are you going with the 12?
People can call me out for bias here. She's been one of my favorite players since 2019. I'll add the caveat if healthy, but give me Rose Lavelle.
Let's go.
You have to. She's too good. She's too good, bro. She has to be on the team.
She was my Mel Kiper's next best available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so now I get to circle Rose Lavelle on my list too. I agree with you. Still just 28 years old and just an absolute fucking legend. I think we can count on her health-wise to be able to kind of like bounce back. We're obviously at the very, very front end of the NWSL season. Yep. No sense. And like obviously that roster at Gotham is like pretty loaded. You don't need to, put that much stress on a player like that. But I think come Olympics, when the lights are on, and like now the stakes are like cranked all the way up, that is a player gotta be on this roster if she's healthy.
You saw it in the World Cup when shit wasn't working and she was very obviously battling some health issues. Me and you talked about it in our old gambling podcast. She looked like the best player on the field through stretches. It was her and Haran who looked like they were carrying us. And as me watching her as a Seattle Reign observer, the game is different when she is in and when she's on the ball. You have to put her on the roster.
100%. Total cosign. I'm going to make a pick here to kind of firm up our defense. Give me Tierna Davidson.
Let's go.
I think she's been pretty solid kind of all the way through. She didn't have the best couple matches in SheBelieves Cup, but Gold Cup, I think rock solid there. She's just a really good player, really smart player, and a player that ultimately I trust. So that's huge, obviously, in a tournament like this.
Such a great way to put it. I think Kilgore has obviously shown trust and not like Kilgore is being like puppeteered by Emma Hayes, but Emma Hayes has input. The whole staff is kind of aligned on this. I think it's very clear that they trust her as well. And a great partner with Naomi Girma. They clearly have a level of chemistry back there that you gotta like. Totally in support of that pick.
3 more spots.
Okay, so I got 3 more players on my big board. I think, again, I'm going to lean into the versatility. I'm going to lean into the experience. Give me Emily Sonnet because you could play her at midfield if you need to, and you could play her at defender if you need to.
I like it. She was in my 16 as well. I just love her toughness. I think when she wants to make it hard on you, she's going to do that. And I think kind of seeing her share some minutes with Sam Coffey, those are just 2 players out there that, again, like if they want to squeeze you, they can squeeze you. And I think that's going to be so crucial come Olympics time. All right. I love the pick. Emily Sonnet. Got to have her. Now, I've been going defender with most of these. I like our attackers at this point. I got to do it, man.
Yes.
Give me the supernova. 16-year-old Lily Johannes.
Yes. She's in my 16 too.
The future of this U.S. women's national team. She's going to have some familiarity with some of those big European players from her time playing Champions League. I think the time is coming very, very soon where now it's going to be time to unleash her. Plus, obviously she's not officially, I don't even want to say the words, but I think she's got to be on the roster. I think she's the most exciting young player. If we look at that class that's behind Jaden Shaw, it's even hard to think about that, but
right.
She's the most exciting young under 19 player I think we have in our system. Got to get her onto this roster.
God damn it. I love this pick. And man, I love this pick. And I didn't even consider, it's such a great point by you. I didn't even consider her familiarity with the European competition. That's excellent. That a level of short-sightedness by me. Again, I always admit to caveman brain, like looking at athletics or football in general is just like, oh, who's the big, strong, fast, smart player? I want that one. And we'll figure it out later. But yeah, the experience, that's perfect. And somebody you can trust at 16.
Yeah, and I think, she's not like a 16-year-old that's playing in some like private school in LA or, or Jersey. Like she's playing in the fucking Champions League and she's Ajax's maybe their best player, for long stretches their best player.
Sure.
This is a player that went head to head with PSG, with Roma, with Bayern Munich. Now, you've got Germany, you've got France, you've got Spain. And this is a player with real professional football experience. It's not just that she's the future. I think in the here and now, she can make a huge impact.
Yeah. I mean, imagine looking at Lily Johannes and be like, hey, are you going to be able to handle this? And then she looks back at you and says, I played against Valentina Giacinti. Do you think I can handle this? I probably can.
Yeah.
So I like the I mean I just couldn't love this pick anymore.
I mean, she got some Saki Kumagai head to head. She
I'm
got some Aaron
saying
Cuthbert head to head. I mean, she's fucking ready.
100%, no doubt.
We've got one more spot, and I'm going to lose my shit if we have the same 16th player, but something's telling me that we might. Who is it?
Okay. Now, see, now I feel like there's a tad bit of pressure on me. I want to talk this out a little bit.
Okay.
I'm in between two defenders, and so in the spirit, because I hate leaving off the player I actually had in my original 16, but as I've been looking at it, like one of my like first couple out, I have another player there. So I'm gonna skew young. You took Johannes. Give me Eva Gaetino.
Ooh, buddy.
She plays for PSG. She's getting some Champions League time. I know she hasn't played a lot of minutes for a long time. She's playing in big matches in the Champions League. If we're going to take the last two spots, you take 16-year-old Johannes, you take 21-year-old Gattino. I feel like you get some young players in there. I wouldn't be totally surprised if the other player that I had in mind in defense is the total opposite end of the spectrum, who I was really, really considering. But I don't want to spoil it. Who did you have in mind?
I actually had Abby Dalkemper in this spot.
Okay.
86 appearances for the U.S. I
Yep.
think another player that's like pretty dependable, pretty steady.
Yeah.
I mean, in that spot, essentially like a reserve defender, you're really just looking for somebody that's going to kind of hold it down, maybe take over the last third or quarter of a game. And I think she's playing really well. Very workmanlike, clock in, clock out, just kind of doing what needs to get done. I love when defenders, it's kind of like offensive linemen in football. Like when you don't hear them being called out, it's kind of like a good day.
Right.
And I think on the other side, where you've got Neiswanger and Dunn, like that's kind of where our offense is flowing. It's up that left-hand side.
Sure.
So everything kind of happening on the right is like, hold it down back here. It's like we're sort of tilting the field in this direction. So that would have been my pick, Dalkemper. But I love the Gattino pick. I think it's very very inspired.
Well, all right. Well, let me hit you with this though, because that's actually not the player that I had in mind, even though I like where your head's at here. So what if we were between Gattino, Dalkemper, and I was thinking Casey Kruger, thinking about the other side of the spectrum there. Somebody who you could honestly play her at left or center back. I mean, you could play her at right back if you really needed to. 33 years old, 46 caps. She was really solid in the CONCACAF W Gold Cup. I think a lot of the same things you mentioned about Dalkemper, but she's 3 years older and with 40 fewer caps than Dalkemper. I feel like we can't really lose. I mean, and you think about it, we left some good players off this roster, I'm sure we'll talk about. But
yeah.
I can be swayed. I like the youth of Gattino, but I think the more I talk about it, Kruger or Dalkemper, you could do a lot with either of those players.
All right, well, I made my pick. I told you who I had at 16. This is your pick. I'm not going to, I'm going to leave it in your hands where we go. I don't think there's a wrong answer in the bunch. Obviously, trade-offs is the name of the game, when you have a roster like this. Kruger, I mean, I think we've seen her play really, really well recently.
Yeah.
But it has been in a reserve role.
Sure.
So that could be a double-edged sword. If, God forbid, there's an injury, something wild happens, is Casey Kruger the player that you want to kind of like have to eat up all those minutes? But on the flip side, she might be the perfect, sort of like, come on. I know she saved a goal when she kind of like took Crystal Dunn's spot. I think that was against Canada in the Gold Cup. Like I might be missing that, but she looked electric coming onto the field for that last 10, 15 minute stretch. So I'm gonna leave it up to you. We'll kind of put balls in your court who we pick, and then your last pick will kind of nail down our final 16.
This is a pro Paris Saint-Germain podcast. Let's go with Gattino. I love the Champions League experience. And now you got me a little bit swayed with the whole she has your experience playing against these great European players. So let's go. She's been on the pitch with them. So let's get her out there. And if we need her, she might be able to head in a goal too.
Yeah, she's going to know some of the spots to eat, get some croissants, get some lattes, and she's going to know her way around the town. So I mean, she's not your regular 21-year-old.
Love it.
I love our roster. I think we're fucking ready to go. Couple quick notes. You mentioned it. Some names that didn't make the Into the Channel cut. Alex Morgan.
Yeah.
On the bubble. I think.
Yeah.
I think we can live with that. She played really well in the Gold Cup. Obviously, a bigger roster, but there's just something about her game. And then again, we're really talking about what's it going to look like against Spain. what's it going to look like against France, Germany, like, and I think when you kind of crank it up to that level, you've seen her kind of get neutralized a little bit
Sure.
when, she's sort of out there and having to carry a lot of weight as, the number 9. I'm kind of ready for this post Alex Morgan on the biggest stages. I think she's got a huge role to play, obviously, on the team and kind of like, doing what she did. And I thought she was solid too, and She Believes, very valuable player, but tough cuts. I mean, this is not fun. I'm glad we don't actually have to do this for a living. We could just do it on our fun podcast.
But if somebody were to offer us to do it for a living, hit your boys up. I mean, look, we can start playing Football Manager, the video game, start kind of figuring out the roster building skills. You obviously saw we have a good process here. Yeah, totally agree with you on Morgan. 223 caps, 123 goals, 53 assists. She's one of the greatest players in the history of the program.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect ever to the legend Alex Morgan. Lindsey Horan gets the trophy for the She Believes Cup. The first person she hands it to is Alex Morgan. Like the respect and just almost, it's like you can feel that players are honored to share the field with her. She's an absolute legend. She is the definition of a player, and in a similar vein to Megan Rapinoe, who is going to leave the game and leave the program in a better place than where she found it. And so much respect to her. And I think that if you asked her in the most honest of honest moments, she would say, let the young guns get out there and start winning some trophies.
Yeah. And I think, the time has to come for the baton to kind of get passed to like a Lindsey Horan, right? Like, and I think we've already pseudo seen it, but I think she's got to be the big dog, on the bus, the captain in every sense. And I think Alex Morgan kind of moving on, sort of frees that up a little bit, even when we had like the post Corbin Albert press conference, another player that, I think is playing really well, didn't make our cut.
Right.
You still see like Horan and Morgan on the podium together, kind of like making that statement. Kind of feels like it needs to be Horan speaking on behalf of the whole squad, speaking to the squad, when shit gets tight, which we've already seen. But I don't know, there's just something about it that I think is important.
Yeah, it's easier to do it when the other legend isn't standing over your shoulder, I would imagine. Other tough cuts, I mean, we talked about young players. I love Olivia Moultre's game. She's a great player. She was one that I really just kind of thought about throughout this process. And Lynn Williams, I know she's 30 years old. I know she's a little banged up right now with the thigh injury, but just one of my absolute favorite players. It helps that we get to see like her personality. We saw it in the Netflix documentary, and now she co-hosts every once in a while, or like every other episode or once a week on, again, Manchester City Football Club legend Sam Muse's podcast. So yeah, tough to leave Lynn Williams off, but like you pointed out, that forward squad that we got on this team, let's fucking go. Like, I feel like we can look France and Spain right in the eye and say, okay, game on then. Let's play.
This is going to be exciting, man. I cannot wait. Okay, let's scoot ahead all the way across the pond. It is Euro qualifier season. Your boy loves a good machination. So I deep dove on exactly what the stakes are surrounding Euro qualifiers, and I feel like I got a little bit of a better handle on it. So 16 teams qualify for the 2025 Euros going down in Switzerland. Side note, not sure why we wouldn't be able to put that trip together, by the way. I mean, that could work. Probably need Norway heavily in the mix there if we're going to find a sponsor who wants to go into the channel with your boys. Talk about that one later. For now, we're going to talk about this. For now, we're going to talk about how to qualify for the 16-team knockout tournament. So, we hit this in our Nations League coverage. 4 groups in League A. Top 2 teams in each League A group get in. So that's 8 total. You're looking at the Spains, the Germanys, the Frances, the Englands. Those are all the League A kind of bunches. So if you finish top 2, you're in. Switzerland, the host country, they're in. So that's 9 of the 16 spots accounted for, which leaves 7 spots, which I believe break down as follows if my research serves me correctly. Those 7 spots, this is fun. They're going to be determined by a 28-team playoff.
Amazing.
Okay? Those 28 teams will include the 8 remaining League A teams, the 3rd placers and the 4th placers. So these are like your Belgiums, your Finlands, your Polands. 12 teams from League B, so the top 3 in each group. League B is like the Scotlands, Portugals in League B, the Serbias of the world, and the aforementioned Switzerland. So we'll get 8. We'll get all of them from League A. They'll get into this round robin. 12 from League B. And here's where it gets fun. 8 teams from League C. The 5 group winners from League C's 5 groups and the best 3 runners-up. here's where we might get a little Luxembourg, little Kazakhstan, North Macedonia, the Faroe Islands, little Faroe Islands action. Lovely in the summer, by the way, a little rainy this time of year, so pack accordingly. Should be fun. I think there's real stakes. We're going to see some fun League C teams, kind of mix it up with the big boys, big girls, big players, big people, however you want to kind of like this. Like that. I'm excited.
Understandable. I think you could make a case that after the World Cup, and we love the Champions League. I love club football. I do realize, as much as I enjoyed watching SheBelieves Cup, as much as I enjoyed watching some of these Euro qualifier matches, man, I love club football. I fucking love it. I love the clubs. I like, and I mean, it makes sense. So we've talked about it many times. I grew up, I'm a huge American college football fan. And my lifelong dream is to always compare these two sports. But man, the Euros, god damn, the Euros is a great tournament. Perhaps, my opinion, somewhat shaded by our reigning European champions, the Lionesses of England, my squad. But even before that, I mean, you could make a case that it's the second greatest tournament next to the World Cup. I think it's neck and neck between the Euros and the Champions League for me. SheBelieves Cup, third place, obviously. But just, I mean, you mentioned the names, the teams. You think about the Dutch, France, Spain, England. These teams are absolutely loaded. And I like what they've done with the league. It's a little complicated with these qualifying leagues, but thankfully we have Dino Desespedes to break it all down for us. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think some teams that we've really kind of like fallen in love with, like you think about in Italy, they get a goal. Giuliano to Giacinti, stop me if you've heard of that one before.
Yeah, come on.
Portugal, another team on the rise. It's just, I mean, how can you not love watching that team play? To me, I actually don't like to compare club football to world football.
That's fair.
It's the other side of the coin. Like it's where sort of like you can see these other cross matchups or teammates kind of going up against each other. USA Canada had a bunch of that.
Yep.
It's just really incredible. You get to discover players in a different context under different circumstances. Thinking back to Colombia, my first experience with like Amira Ramirez, Linda Caicedo, Lacey Santos, and then you see them all playing together. You're like, yo, this is fucking super cool. Like this is like Colombian football that they're playing. And now obviously those players, playing in big time clubs all over the world, you get to have a different appreciation for them. So we don't have to choose. That's the best part about it. So it's, for me, it's the backside of the coin.
That is fair. Comparison is the thief of joy. Sometimes my natural mental state is just there is a little joy thief running around back there. So part of the reason I love doing this podcast with you is you make me kick that joy thief in the crotch and get him the fuck out of here. Okay, I will enjoy the international football as much as the club football. We're 2 matches through on the group stage of these Euro qualifiers. What have you seen so far? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. If I may, it's a 2-beer show because
we're 2 matches through.
We're 2 matches through. It's been a stressful week. I always love those weeks where it's, oh boy, it's been a week and it's only Wednesday. So, apologies to some of our pals who have DM'd us on the ITC Twitter account. We're going to answer you soon. It's just the day job's been a little rough lately, but that's okay. It's what we got the football for.
100%. Yeah, our guy, Mr. Grand Angle, out here earning it. Like you mentioned, 2 matches through the group stage. If I didn't sway you over to the world of international football before, how about the new group of life? Mm-hmm. Group A1, Norway, Italy, Finland, the Netherlands, all on 3 points after 2 matches. Norway, let's go, leading the way with a +3 goal differential. So maybe they're in the driver's seat. And, maybe a Norwegian sponsor steps up and helps your boys get out in 2025 out to Switzerland. We can all make it a big party. Group A2, Spain and Denmark. They're in the driver's seat there. 6 points for both. Czechia and Belgium both on 0. Group A3, France sitting pretty, 6 points. Sweden and England, they're gonna battle it out. Yeah. England ahead right now, 4 points. Sweden is on 1 point. But come May 31st, match day 3, things can get a little tricky there. England hosts France and Sweden travels to Ireland. And then Group A4, Germany leading that group, 6 points. Iceland and Austria both on 3. And those 2 squads go head to head on May 31st. So a lot to get excited about, a lot of stakes. I think something that we're going to kind of keep an eye on as we get closer to the end of the group stage and shit starts to get a little bit more real.
Let me just throw out here, I just fact check myself, make sure that I'm correct here. Okay, so Norway's first match against Finland, they won 4-0.
Let's go.
One of our faves, Martin Ostenstad of the powerhouse club SK Braun, in the starting lineup for that 4-0 win versus Finland. The second match that happened on April 9th, yesterday, an unfortunate 1-0 loss to the Netherlands. Lineth Bierenstein scores in the 6th minute. She's just a fucking scoring machine. It's hard to combat that. But I will say, I'm just saying, no SK Braun players in the Norwegian starting lineup for the loss. So, I don't know. Is correlation? Is it causation? Just want to throw that out there. You have one match that you won 4-0. You had a Braun player in the lineup. You had a second match that you lost 1-0. You did not have any Braun players. Maybe you might want to consider that for the next match.
Who knows where our next jobs are or the next professional opportunities are going to be. Might be out in Norway, giving them some lineup advice as well. I think
Let's go.
We've made some inroads there so far. That's incredible that even in the win, only one Braun player. Like, what are we doing here? Like,
and I'll say Gaupset and Jelland yet to get in either match, if I have this correct. Let me just do a quick on the fly fact check. Yeah, neither has appeared in either match. So, if I may offer a little advice, if I had Senia Gaupset on my roster and she's healthy, so please, our pals in Norway, please correct me if I'm wrong, if she's battling anything that I don't know about. But if I had Senia Gaupset on my team, I'd put her in the game.
Yeah, I'd never take her out. Like we mentioned, 4 more group stage matches left in qualifiers, but May 31st is when all these teams come back together. Some fun, some might say tasty matchups left on the docket. Ireland hosting Sweden. That'll be fun. Norway, they host Italy in the aforementioned Giuliano to Giacinti.
Hell yeah.
Combo there. That's going to be a doozy. Denmark hosts Spain, and the Netherlands hosts Finland. Group of life, let's fucking go. And the biggie, May 31st, England hosts France.
I'll tell you, man, Sweden played France awfully tough. France escapes with a 1-0 victory. I had mentioned this when Spain beat France a few weeks back. We had pointed out that Spain was like pushing France out wide. Any shot they had felt like it was from an acute angle. They were just trying to kind of play balls into the middle. Sweden did a lot of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of made me wonder, like, is that what defenses are doing to France? Or is that kind of what Hervé Renard is game planning for? Is that, like, Diani out on the wing? She's deadly out there. She'll serve balls in, to Leyssemer or anybody who's going to be in the middle there. Is that the absolute strategy we want? Because if you can get, when Diani cuts in, she's absolutely lethal from there too. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch kind of how that develops. Renard got a red card in that Sweden match as well.
Wow.
Actually, let me just double check that. Okay, the magic of editing. I have fact checked myself. I did have this correct. I want to make sure the minute was right. Hervé Renard gets sent off in that Sweden match in the 58th minute. Straight red. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Get directly the fuck out of here. He gets sent off after a foul on Leyssemer that he apparently did not appreciate. But unrelated to Hervé Renard, Wendy Renard is very much worth mentioning. She was in the lineup in the starting 11, and she scored that lone goal to defeat Sweden 1-0. She is back,
Wow.
And that is something that if you root for Lyon, you're probably quite excited about.
That's huge, obviously, for France, huge for Lyon. So to see that she scored and she's playing big minutes, that's huge for both of those squads. On your France point, I think they kind of have to get back to Basha ball, Karshawi ball. Let's open up some space. I think so often, like, the space just shrinks down. I think they're maybe trying to do too much work to get it in close. And I think that might be working against them. I think you have those two players that are so accurate with their service and so crafty, when they switch from defense to offense mentally, they're just leaving a lot on the table, not kind of capitalizing on those two super talents.
Yeah, well said. I think you're exactly right. You have a wealth of talent. Vicky Beccio also ended up getting a red card in that Sweden match. She
Jesus.
came on. She starts to get a yellow. I'll have to watch it because obviously they can't broadcast these things on regular television in America. So I'm watching it on some YouTube stream in French. But if I understood correctly, I think the ref started to just show Beccio a yellow card for a hard foul. And I will say, I like, I'll cop to this. Vicky Beccio has been one of my favorite players since I saw her play in the World Cup. I think she has a high ceiling.
Mhm.
The ref starts to pull out the yellow card, and Vicky Beccio completely loses her mind and puts her hands on the ref's arm almost to physically not let her pull out the yellow card. And so the ref pulls out the yellow and then pulls out the red, like, hey, don't touch me. I think that's how that went. And it's happening in like the 87th minute or the 86th minute or something like that. So not a great look from Betcho, not a great moment. So you got to wonder, I mean, Hervé Renard's getting tossed in the 58th minute. Your players are kind of acting a little wild out there.
Yeah.
That seat for any French football club or even the France international team, that seat can get hot pretty quick, no matter who you are. So,
Hmm.
especially if you're getting kind of smashed by Spain and then you're squeaking by Sweden, you might want to start stacking up some wins here soon, Hervé.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I think you're right on the money about that. I thought you might have gone to maybe a little bit of home cooking, two red cards. Again, this one's played in Gothenburg, who knows. But I think I'm with you. I think add to the mix an Olympics at home.
Yep.
There's going to be some big time expectations for this French team. And obviously, like, they're having a moment as well. Two teams in the Champions League semifinals.
Yep.
You got players like Cascarino coming back, just obliterating.
Balling.
Like, I mean, there's going to be some pressure. I think there's going to be some pressure on a lot of teams. I mean, I even think about Germany, who's in the US's group, is used to winning. Talk about Champions League, like they've put teams in the final, it felt like forever. And they very famously didn't have a German team make the quarterfinals
Right.
of the Champions League, which was a big shock to a lot of people. I think a team like Germany is going to have to kind of show something here as well. So, going to be a lot of unhappy federations come this summer. Just the competition, the level of the game globally is just at an all-time high. It's so exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, that's such a great point in the sense that it really annoys me, and this is a women's football podcast. It's not a men's football podcast, but anytime anybody talks about the English men's national team, if I hear somebody use the term the weight of the shirt, it makes me insane because we've talked about it. I know that the English men's national team is under pressure, just like the English women's national team is under pressure. Do you not think the German national team is not under immense pressure, or
Right.
the Spanish national, like that they're just like, oh, good try, everybody, maybe next time. Like, no, you're on the chopping block if you don't
Oh,
win
yeah.
those matches. So I think you're totally right. There are going to be some mega unhappy federations, and the players feel that stress more than anybody. They're on the field. We're talking about their money here in their very short careers comparatively to other people's careers in front offices. So I'm totally with you here. I think this is all leading up to what's going to be an incredible Olympics and then an incredible Euros right after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a great point. I mean, on the men's side, you think about a team like Italy, a team that's won the World Cup in our lifetime, and
Right.
just not even making it to the tournament. It's just got to be so jarring. So I agree with you. The pressure's immense, and that's, I think, what makes it so exciting. Is it's just gonna be banger after banger this summer. 12
Yep.
teams. I mean, not a dud in the bunch. We're gonna have stuff on every single match, 100%
Oh, yeah.
here on the pod. So definitely keep it locked. Okay. The CAF, Confederation of African Football, Olympic qualifying, a couple big matches that your boys were locked into. How about little Copper Queens versus the Atlas Lionesses? If that's not your cup of tea, how about some Super Falcons versus Banyana for the last two spots in the Olympics? These were decided last couple days here, so it's been an exciting week to kind of like nail down these last two. What's your take on kind of like how things shook out?
I mean, amazing matches between Zambia and Morocco. Full disclosure, those were the ones that I was really kind of locked in on. All respect to Banyana. It felt like Nigeria's defense was going to be able to kind of lock down and rule the day in those two ties. versus South Africa. Nigeria gets the job done. They win 1-0 in aggregate over 2 matches. That sounds like some Nigerian football. In my view, absolute bangers between Zambia and Morocco. Great goals, like looping immense hits from outside the 18 to score a last minute goal to bring the drama in the first match. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk Barbara Banda, we're going to talk Rachel Kundanaji, but let me just say, in regard, and this has nothing to do with the Moroccan footballers, who are great players who prove themselves in the World Cup.
Oh
But
yeah.
when it comes to that fucking bozo of a manager they have, Jorge Vilda, let me just say, first, LOL, and secondly, LMAO. Jorge, congratulations on taking a team that made the final 16 of the World Cup and not qualifying for the Olympics. Man, you must have been the brains behind the whole operation in Spain. It couldn't have been Aitana Bonmati or any of the 15 brilliant players that you had on Spain. It must have been you leading the charge there. The Moroccan players, they deserve better than that fucking guy. Get him all the way out of here.
I mean, the cosign of all cosigns from your guy. I mean, I don't even want to waste any more airtime on. Well, let's just move ahead. Let's flip the coin over and take a look, see at what's happening on the other side. How about little Zambia, our Copper Queens? A lot of work to do going into that last one. You mentioned it. They give up a super late goal to Morocco at home to drop the opener 2-1
Oof.
in what I think like 99 times out of 100. That's a backbreaker. It's over.
Has to be.
1-1, and you give up that late one at home, and now you've got to make up so much more ground going on the road in an international matchup against another national team. You're not going, Lyon to PSG. Like, now you're crossing the continent to kind of like take on Morocco. A 2-goal win away in Morocco gets them through, but wasn't going to be easy. So in that instance, who do you look to if you're Zambia? Whose shoulders could bear the weight of a nation? I'll tell you who, buddy. You already mentioned her. Barbara Banda. 39th minute, Banda scores on a breakaway to bring the two sides even. 105th minute, Barbara Banda draws a handball foul in the box. 106th minute, Barbara Banda buries the PK to basically send Zambia and our Copper Queens to the Olympics. Africa's all-time leading goal scorer in the Olympics, in case y'all forgot. I mean, what can I say? Probably one of my favorite players on the planet. I don't even want to say this is the Barbara Banda game. This is undoubtedly a Barbara Banda game that I think will go down probably near the top of her resume until it gets leapfrogged by another otherworldly performance that I got to imagine is maybe just months away.
I mean, we're observers, we're admirers of the U.S. women's national team. You can't be psyched to have to go play Barbara Banda and Rachel Kundanaji, a team with the guts that this team has, a team with the speed and the intelligence and the link-up play, the ability to score goals from outside the 18. There are a lot of different looks. I mean, you think about the way Kundanaji was able to score in that first tie from outside the 18. That looked a lot like that Mayra Palacio goal that Mexico scored against USA in the CONCACAF W Gold Cup. I mean, we're talking about superlative attacking talent. And, we've said a lot. And the USA, they're not lacking in depth and talent on the defensive end. But they're going to have their work cut out for them with this Zambian squad.
Yeah, and I think, I love, Zambia. They're obviously, tough draw, I think, but
Yeah.
tough draw for almost like every team. Like every group has like, I kind of feel like every team outside of maybe the US and Spain, I can see losing a match, maybe losing multiple matches during the group stage just because there's so much competition.
Yeah, totally. And let me just say, man, one thing that does bother me, and this has nothing to do with the Zambian national team, how fucking difficult it is to find information, to find the matches on these African teams in women's football in the United States. We got to do better over here. Shout out again, Mariam Karabi from She Scores Bangers, tweeting out links to make sure we can watch Zambia versus Morocco.
Game changer.
Yeah, shout out to her. Always appreciate her. Some of the best women's football stuff in the game. I would hope that if you have landed on us two dopes, you're already listening to the She Scores Banger podcast and watching her on YouTube. So thank you, Miriam. We appreciate you there. But yeah, man, I mean, it's only a matter of time before that. I think it's like an S1 visa or the D1 visa or whatever it is for Banda comes through, and we get to see her playing for your pride. Hopefully that happens before we get to the Olympics. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be a hell of a team to contend with, especially when you have to go up against them on short rest on these like every 3 day matches in the Olympics. I'm going to be very interested to see how the attack looks in those circumstances.
I love that their attack is so quick strike.
Yeah.
It's like Kundananji is just grab it, turn, fire, and then now it's in.
Yep.
You know, Banda like kind of falls asleep for a second. She makes a run. You put the ball anywhere in her path, and it's just danger. Again, a lot to get excited about. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it. I think we have nicely covered the world of football before we get back into domestic league play.
Hell yeah. All right, man. I think we did it. It's been another episode of Into the Channel. If you missed it, this week we broke down both of the USWNT's big wins over Japan, over Canada, to take home the SheBelieves Cup. We also drafted our 18-player, more like our 16-player USWNT Olympic roster fantasy team. Everyone watching, listening, would love to hear what you think, what we got wrong here. I'm sure there'll be some ideas, some thoughts, some takes. Excited to see those. We zipped over to Europe to talk a little Euro qualifiers, and we celebrated those two African nations that we love so, so much that will now take part in this summer's Olympics, the Copper Queens of Zambia and those Super Falcons of Nigeria. Congratulations again. So, like if you liked, and remember, subscribe or follow into the channel, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen, at ITC_pod on X. Big thanks to everyone watching, listening, subscribing, commenting, or just plain hanging out with us. We love being part of this global community. This global community is why we do the show, so we thank you. And big thanks to my co-host as well, Mr. Grant Angle, for never being scared to traverse this global world of football. Anytime, anywhere, if there's women's football being played, your boys are here for it. Or at the very least, we're typing it into FotMob or YouTube, kind of see what comes out the other end.
Always. We appreciate you guys no matter where you're listening, whether you're listening in Zambia. I mean, the data has come back to show that we got some pals out there. Obviously, Norway, you know what time it is. Bergen, the greatest city in the world, if you ask me. Or maybe you're relaxing under a dogwood tree on the pine straw at Augusta National, taking in some golf. Of course, I had to get one more Masters recap in there. Or maybe you think the people who run Augusta National are a bunch of out-of-touch billionaires who might just be scumbags. Depending on where you land on that spectrum, we appreciate you listening to the show, and we will talk to you guys very soon.